Am I the a-hole for ripping up my brother's apology letter and screaming at him to just leave me alone? We aren't family? Context and a very short version. When I was 17, I was in a relationship with my twin brother's best friend Jake. It lasted 8 years, till we were all finished college and my ex had gotten enough money off his extremely religious parents to get a head start in life. If you don't know where this is going, my brother and Jake were together the whole time and used me as a cover because my feelings didn't matter. My brother had been out since his teens, which is why they came up with the idea to use me so his parents wouldn't get suspicious. My parents were angry with my brother, even cut contact for a year, but they all made up and have been pushing since for us to speak again. I refused to speak to my brother due to how they dismissed me. When everything came out, Jake literally said, "You wouldn't understand." I had no other choice. My brother was worse. Like, I get where Jake was coming from because his parents are nuts, but I didn't deserve to be treated like that. It's been 5 years since everything came out, and I'm currently pregnant with twins with my soon-to-be husband. My brother and Jake moved back to our hometown last year, and they both have been trying via my family/friends, even coworkers, to get me to talk. My mother begged me to sit down like an adult and not let the past ruin my son's chance at having a relationship with her uncle. That the hate I have for my only sibling is ruining our family and my mental health. Then a few hours ago, I stopped by for lunch and to show my parents scanned photos. And guess who was there? The happy couple. I was literally in shock for a few minutes. Then when my brother tried to hug me, I pushed him away. I got so worked up I physically couldn't stop shaking at this. My brother and Jake tried to apologize, talk about what happened, and beg for a relationship. I was in tears and begged them to leave me alone. At the end, my brother handed me a letter and said, "I really wish things could be different. You're my sister, my twin. I do love you and it kills me we don't have each other anymore." So basically, I lost it. Ripped up the letter screaming that we weren't family and I just want him to leave me alone. I walked out after that and had to get a taxi home because I was too upset to drive. Since then, my parents and family members have told me I'm cruel and bitter, that I need to stop living in the past and get over it. Now for the comments. Not stay home. I feel sorry for Jake with his homophobic parents, but what he and your brother did to you is horrible. They betrayed your trust, both as a romantic partner and as a sibling. If they had told you the truth at age 16, you might have even offered to be a cover. But instead, they chose to lie to you for 8 years. No one, not your brother, not your parents, no one gets to determine when you should be over it. You are not obliged to accept any apology, ever. And tell your parents if they can't respect your feelings and your decision, they will no longer be part of you or your children's lives. I've actually have been asked this multiple times, and the honest truth is if they told me the truth from the get-go and asked me to be his fake girlfriend, I probably would have done it so my brother could have been happy. They took that choice away from you. You do not owe them forgiveness. Well, they haven't actually offered a straightforward apology. Might be a decent start. I'd hope you're definitely not the a-hole and has 0 reasons to ever choose to receive it if they do. Not the a-hole. They're monsters. They stole 8 years from your life because there were like no other options. Now they're sorry? Yeah, right. Maybe they want something from you, like being their surrogates in the future. I would stay with no contact with them and low contact to no contact with your parents. You did not break your family. They did it. And now they're harassing you and putting your well-being in danger. Screw them all. Be strong. I don't even think of that, to be honest. Well, they planned to use you once. With that kind of disgusting and horrible people, everything is possible. I'm so sorry, Opie. Not stay home. Your mother ambushed you. You should cut off the lot of them. I think I will with my parents till at least after I've given birth. Or I get it in writing that they won't try that again. Next story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for walking out of my surprise birthday party?" So it was my 20th female birthday today, and from the minute I woke up, nobody has acknowledged my birthday. I walked downstairs to my kitchen, and my mom was reading her newspaper, ignoring me completely. She even had some demands about cooking and cleaning, so my day already started a little off. My dad and brother both ignored me as well. Normally, my dad wishes me at least a happy birthday, but today he just said nothing. My friends seem to have forgotten it as well, as they literally said nothing. My friend messaged me about some clothes, but nothing more. I just didn't feel special, as stupid as it sounds. It was the same at work. My colleague spoke about my birthday yesterday, yet today nobody acknowledged it or said anything. I just felt so miserable and ignored. So before heading home after work, I bought myself a small birthday cake just to treat myself and make it a little better. Well, when I got home and ready to just have a dip, my whole family/friends and colleagues were in my living room. They told me how they had been all excited to surprise me, but I just couldn't help myself but feel upset. They ignored me throughout the whole day, and now they want me to be all happy and chatty? I just walked out. I walked back to my car, and now I'm sitting in a McDonald's parking lot writing this. My phone is being blown up about me being the a-hole for walking out. I do feel kind of bad, but I just couldn't do it anymore. Should I have just sucked it up, or was I the a-hole for walking out? People seem to be confused about surprise parties in here. Surprise parties don't mean you go the whole day without acknowledging the birthday and making someone feel awful as a bit. It just means you don't acknowledge that there is a party that is going to take place. Lol, right? Some commenters seem to think the point of a surprise party is to make you feel absolutely awful about yourself first. Then when everyone yells, "Surprise!" you can feel happy and live again. Life is not a sitcom. I'd be feeling awkward if someone threw me a surprise party, because I would already have plans or plan to not have plans. I'm not the most sociable person anyway, so a surprise party just isn't me. Not stay home. People really need to stop going with plans that only happen/work in fiction. Normal people with their heads on right can still manage a surprise party while also saying happy birthday and the like. Nothing that happens implied plans or care, and it's very okay to be upset by the emotional whiplash. Please don't listen to anyone saying that not saying happy birthday when a surprise party is planned is normal. It's not. Correct. I have thrown and have had surprise parties thrown for me. Not once was the birthday guy/girl ignored all day beforehand. It's stupid and mean. I hate the idea of having a surprise party for myself, but I've helped throw them for several people who I know would love them. There's always been some setup first, and no one would ignore the person. For my moms, my dad pretended that they were going out to a fancy dinner, and they were just dropping me and my brother off at my grandparents' house for the night. The party was in their backyard. One of my close friends thought her boyfriend was taking her to brunch, which he was. It was just that a dozen of us were also there. Even the ones where the person came home to a big surprise, we usually found a way to make them think they were doing something sociable. So they were dressed and ready for some sort of something even without knowing that it was a party. Next story. Am I the a-hole for being mad at my parents because they withheld information about my medical history from me? I have had nose and sinus issues my entire life. I could never breathe out of my nose to the point where not only my smell and taste were almost non-existent, but I could only mouth breathe. I also had a snot 24/7. Sometimes it was like a leaky tap where it would not stop. I went through so much clothes and beddings because of getting snot all over everything and my clothes too. I got made fun of a lot at school, and it used to make my teachers angry. I was so self-conscious and didn't have any friends. My parents always said there was no cure or anything when they took me to the doctor. At the beginning of this year, I moved for a job. I grew up in Nevada and the job was in Louisiana. I got here a few weeks before my start date to get set up. This is where it started. Within days of moving here, I could breathe out of my nose. No more snot, and I can smell and taste. It freaked me out at first because this had never been possible in my life. I'm not a mouth breather anymore, and my sleep is not disturbed now. One of the good things about my job besides the pay is that it comes with insurance. I got a checkup at the dentist, the eye doctor, and a doctor for the first time since I was 12. I had these when I was a kid, but when I was about 12, my dad got a new job, but the insurance was not good. We only went to the doctor or dentist for major things like a broken bone. I was still on my dad's insurance before I got my job. My new doctor asked for my medical records if I had them. My first doctor was gone, but the building is still there, and they had mine from a long time ago. There wasn't much from the second. This is where I found out my parents lied to me. In my old records, it says a bunch of times the dry air hurts my sinuses. The doctor says a less dry climate would relieve them, but besides that, there is medication, and a humidifier would help. It says so over and over. They never told the second doctor this information either. I asked my parents about it, and they were angry that I got the medical records because they said it was private. My mom said they didn't try medication because it was too much of a hassle to remember to give me the pills. My dad said moving was out of the question since it would remove my sister from her friends, and a humidifier was too much work for mom. I'm not so self-centered to think they should have moved, but if I had this info when I was older, I could have been responsible for my own medication, and I would have moved from Nevada when I was 18 if I knew it would help. My parents must have told my sister everything because she blew up my phone with calls and messages, saying I shouldn't have snooped in the medical records. And mom and dad were right to tell me there was no cure because the medication and other stuff was too much to put on their plate. Am I the a-hole for being furious about this? If I knew, I could have taken steps to fix this when I was old enough. I'm also perturbed they think me not being able to breathe properly was no big deal. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Yes, those records were private, but they weren't private from you. Those are your records. Your parents were being very neglectful and awful. I'm so glad you can live your new life in a place that is healthy for you. My mom said they didn't try medication because it was too much of a hassle to remember to give me the pills. They had various medical interventions available, yet they chose to neglect OP's needs because it was an inconvenience. The gall on them to get mad at OP. Humidifier was too much work for mom. You put water in a tank and plug it in. Hell, OP probably could have done it himself. Some people should not be parents. Yeah, I learned to operate a basic one at like age 4. And the medicine regimen for dry sinuses usually isn't terribly difficult either. I got seasonally dry sinuses. Doctor just told us to get OTC saline spray and come back if it didn't clear up for a prescription. Even pills and kids aren't that bad. After dry sinus season, we went immediately to pollen hell season, and mom just plopped our breakfast down on the kitchen table with a side of Claritin. Of all the medical conditions that a child can have, I feel like dry sinuses should have been one of the easiest to manage. They didn't try medication because it was too much of a hassle and a humidifier was too much work for mom. Apparently being a parent was too much work for them as well. This is negligence. Plain and simple. Not a-hole. Yes, this is straight up negligence. As in, if CPS had found out about this, it would have been a problem. Negligence. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for letting my niece drink and watch graphic movie? I was spending a weekend at our family's cabin with my sister's family. They came in a few hours after me, 37 female, and realized they left a bunch of stuff they needed, so they were going to drive into the nearest town for them. My niece, 23, wanted to stay behind to enjoy the lake, so they left her behind. But it started raining and there's no data or Wi-Fi at the cabin, so she complained there was nothing to do since she forgot to download something. I had my laptop with me that had a bunch of old movies on it and gave it to her. I didn't check what she was watching and she had her headphones in, so I didn't hear anything. I didn't bother to check either because I assumed she was an adult and could watch whatever she wanted anyway. Then she asked if she could get one of the beers I brought with me and some of the snacks, and I said okay and went to lay down. My sister, husband, and brother were back after maybe 1.5 hours and found her watching Girl with a Dragon Tattoo, 2009 version, and on her second beer. They were so mad and were yelling at her, until she said I gave her the laptop and said she could have some beer. And then they got mad at me saying she isn't allowed to drink, and the dirty movie was going to turn her into a cheap woman. I definitely remembered drinking as a family with my nephew who is 21. Age of drinking is 19 as we live in British Columbia, Canada. I asked if she had a medical condition or are on meds, and they said no, but alcohol was bad so no one should drink. They dismissed when I asked why my nephew was drinking with us near the holidays if she wasn't allowed to, and they argued if they didn't let him drink at home, he would go out and get drunk, and get into trouble anyway. But my niece was a good girl and wouldn't drink if it wasn't around. In my opinion, if my niece wants to drink, she can walk into any liquor store and get it anyway. So as long as she's not drinking too much, it shouldn't be a problem. But am I the a-hole for letting my niece drink and watch a graphic movie? Not the a-hole. 23 is an adult. You weren't letting her do anything. She made a choice. This is hilarious. When I was 23, I went backpacking around Europe for 10 weeks on my own. Met up with friends here and there, but mostly on my own. When I got back, my younger brother had mentioned that a friend of his was shocked that my parents let me go. He basically had to explain to this girl that I lived on my own, in a different city, made my own money, and was a grown adult. There was absolutely nothing my parents could have done to stop me. Not that they wanted to. Absolutely not stay home. Not stay home. You didn't let anyone do anything. She's 23. Lol. She's been able to buy her own alcohol for almost 5 years. That's insane. And she has been able to watch an R-rated foreign films for almost 6 years. Not stay home. What the heck is wrong with your sister? That's wildly creepy, calling a grown woman a good girl as a parent. That is disgusting. She's not a child. Low-key perverted, like they want to keep her purity or something. Nasty AF. Very weird. And watching girl with a dragon tattoo will turn her into a cheap woman? What planet do they live on? And why does niece put up with this at 23? Not stay home. As someone who tolerated this into their 20s, you think it's normal until you can get away. Then you realize it's messed up. Am I the a-hole for refusing to open the door for my sister when she brought her kids to stay with me? This is an ongoing conflict. Yesterday at 11 a.m. I was alone at home. Dear husband went to work early and I was just starting my daily cleaning routine when the bell rang. I, female 30, peeked through the hole and saw my sister, female 36, and her 3 kids, 5, 3, and 2. I did not open the door and talk to her behind it, and I'll explain why in a minute. She said she had an argument with her chronically ill husband, male 34, and wanted to once again punish him by keeping the kids away from him, until he apologized to her for what he said, which was regular argument stuff. Explanation. She started doing this when he got sick. Every time she gets in an argument with my brother-in-law, she'd take the kids and refuses to bring them back till I apologize to her. He has a medical condition that prevents him from getting outside the house. She's been using that, and instead of taking the kids to our aunt's house this time, she brought them to me since aunt is out of town. She asked that I take the kids for 2 days, but I refused and pointed out how unacceptable and wrong for her to punish her husband who's already sick, and using the fact that he can't drive to go pick his kids up or at least see them, against him, should keep them away for days. She started talking about how her husband doesn't care about her hurt feelings, and how much she does for him. Also, how this method has proven to be effective since it got him to recognize his wrongdoings and apologize. But I replied that he probably was only apologizing just to see the kids. I said it wasn't fair for the kids either, but she said they agreed to stay with me and told me to open the door because they missed me so much. I refused and said I won't be responsible when brother-in-law finally decides to do something about this and get the cops involved. She yelled that she's their mother, so the cops won't do a damn thing about it, and assured me my brother-in-law would never do that knowing how much she's cared for him. But I stood my ground and said I won't be opening the door. Period. She yelled saying I was unsupportive and selfish to keep my nieces and nephew out, and refused to open the door for them. I suggested she go work her issues out like a rational adult, and stop pulling cruel stunts that affects her husband and the kids' emotional/mental health. She took offense to that, and said I was clearly on my brother-in-law's side. She shamed me in front of the kids for 10+ minutes, then left. Hours later, my dad, who lives in another town, called, shaming and berating me for not opening the door for his grandchildren, as well as insulting my sister and siding against her. I explained my reasons, but he said the kids are with my cousin and insisted I go pick them up. My husband said I should have opened the door for the kids, and that he could see how dad would be upset with me for not taking the kids in till my sister's conflict with her husband is resolved. He wants me to go pick the kids up, but I keep refusing. But I feel like I'm unsupportive of my sister. More details about my brother-in-law. He has a chronic illness that's gotten worse lately, and limited his ability to do most things. To my knowledge, he wears catheter, wears a cannula and a medical device so he can't drive or walk outside a house. My parents never liked him because he was already sick when my sister married him and said she was wasting her life with him, but she always says she loves him. But I'm not even sure judging by her recent actions. Now for the top comments. Not today, home. Do not go and pick up the kids. Get in touch with CPS instead to explain the situation. CPS for the kids and Adult Protective Services for the husband. Both need to be called now. Not today, hall for the OP. Not today, home. Your sister is weaponizing her kids against a guy who can't fight back. The guy's chronically ill and can't even leave the house to get them. She is abusive. There, I said it. She shouldn't worry about the cops getting involved. It's civil at this point. But boy, if husband gets a lawyer involved, will he have ammunition against her? Her husband, if he doesn't divorce her, will resent her. Probably already does. And her kids, when they're old enough to figure out what she's doing, will resent her. He can't physically take care of himself, let alone 3 kids. I don't think he can get custody. Not today, home. There's something deeply wrong with your family's dynamic here. That your dad is encouraging this is bizarre. It sounds like you need to lay down some firm boundaries with them. Oh yeah, of course my dad is on her side. She's his favorite daughter. There, I said it bluntly. What can I possibly do with them? It's helpless. They have been putting more pressure on me and side-eyeing me for allegedly siding with my brother-in-law. The man is enough to deal with and doesn't need these pathetic games my sister keeps playing. Next story. Am I the a-hole for forcing him to hold up his end of the bargain? Long story short, 3 years ago my fiancé's mom was trying to leave a relationship and needed a place to stay. At that time we lived in a very small, cramped 2-bedroom apartment, with the second bedroom converted into my office because I work from home and need a space for my employment equipment. 2 monitors, printer, fax, filing cabinets, etc. Despite me saying that I truly didn't want to give up my space, he begged and pleaded until I finally gave in. He said, and I quote, "When the day comes, I would do the same for you if your family ever needed it." I was honestly still far, far from happy, because realistically speaking, his mom didn't need a place to go at all. The house her and her boyfriend had was in fact hers, and she had owned it for years. So why she was the one who moved out is beyond me. It wasn't a toxic relationship. She just wasn't feeling it anymore. Fast forward 2 months of her staying. She has completely taken over my office space, and I have my equipment set up in the only other spot available, directly in front of my TV. She moves out and back in with her boyfriend. Never paid a dime and didn't even bother taking most of her things with her, which took me more than 3 days to clear out with my fiancé. Not impressed. Anyhow, we upgrade. We bought a 4-bedroom home last year with a plan of expanding our family. This was prior to finding out he is infertile. It sucks, but honestly, it is what it is. I'm not wildly upset about it. However, my mom just lost her home due to foreclosure. She was renting, and her landlord didn't pay his rent, so the house was foreclosed, and she was given a 3-day notice to quit. My mom has my siblings with her, 14-year-old twins. Very well behaved and clean kids. She needs a place to go, and we have 2 rooms available. I bring it up with my fiancé, and he immediately says he isn't comfortable with it, and that he doesn't want his home to feel like it isn't his by allowing other people to move in and take over. So I brought up his agreement years back, and stated that I allowed his mother to move in for literally no reason, whereas my mother legit needs a place. He is now saying that that was years ago, and the situation is 100% different because there was 2 teenagers running the house when his mom moved in. He says I'm an a-hole for trying to force this on him and make him do something he isn't comfortable with. Am I the a-hole? I have no words, OP. I would rethink the fiancé's status. He's up to bat and proving he doesn't value your family the way he demands you to value his. How about offering him to stay with his mommy dearest if he can't fathom sharing a 4-bedroom home with your siblings for a short period of time? I mean, she should return the favor, right? Not today, home. You deserve better. Also, the intention was to eventually have a kid or more with you. Does he assume a child wouldn't grow into a teenager? Unfortunately, some parents like little kids and only want little kids. Once they stop being cute to them, they don't give them the same amount of attention and love that they did when they were toddlers. So, they have more. I knew a guy who just kept having children over and over with his wife, and he showed a lot of neglect and distaste towards his teenage son, who was often forced to babysit the younger kids. Mysteriously, though, he was always very active and loving with the toddlers. Wait. He wanted you to give up space that you used for work purposes / paycheck purposes for his mother who had literally no reason to leave her own home that she legitimately owns. Then he says that your mother with 2 teenagers who are presumably easier to handle than, say, toddlers, aren't allowed in any of the 2 extra bedrooms, assuming one is used for your workspace, even though there were circumstances beyond her control that made her homeless. I'm assuming your mother only lost her home, and I am also assuming she did not lose her job, that she isn't subsisting predominantly in any welfare programs like Section 8 housing or other such housing subsidies. And if this is the case, then it sounds like a very temporary arrangement. Your mother does otherwise have the means to afford her own place, but just needs time to save for it. Am I correct in assuming this? Otherwise, I don't know if there is possibly any extra info to ask for that would ever make me think the contrary. But you are not today home. You are correct. So my mother is a full-time RN, 12 years strong. She would pay rent and not expect to live for free, despite me never asking. Which is more than I can say for his mother who didn't lift a finger to help with the bills or cleaning. My mom is also a clean freak, so I know our home would never be in shambles. Not today home, but why are you in this relationship? It sounds like he doesn't care about you or your family. Oddly enough, this is actually the first time something like this has ever arose. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my son's wife out? So my son got married super early, 18, and I supported him but also expressed my grievances. Anyways, his wife has always hated me for anything I do. I've tried to extend an olive branch, but she always rejects it. Him and his wife fell on quite hard times after my son lost his job, and my son has been fine living with me but his wife wasn't. She complains about anything and everything I do. She hates my cooking, but if my son heats her up a bowl, it's the best thing ever. If I clean the whole house plus the room they're staying in, he always misses a spot. Never a thank you or anything. Yesterday, I decided I didn't want to be treated like this anymore, and told her that I don't know where this hostility was coming from. And if she doesn't at least try to get to know me, then she can leave. She proceeded to call me the B-word, so I gave her 30 days to move out. My son said that was too harsh and to just deal with it, but I already have for a long time. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Edited to add, I found out why daughter-in-law has been treating me like this. My son told her that I resent her for taking my son. I don't know why I told her that, but it is what it is. Info, I'm kicking my son out too. Not today home. Married adults acting like children. No one is entitled to your house. 30 days is generous. There is no reason why either of them cannot find work right now. Jumping in top comment to add, based on Opie's edit. It does not matter that son told her you resent her. You're not acting like it. You house them, you feed them, you clean for them. You are treating them with respect and love, so at the very least, she should be respectful and polite. She should be doing these tasks herself as a thank you for letting them live with you and supporting them. But why in the world would your son say something like that? They both sound too immature to be married. Not today home. You are giving them a place to stay, food to eat, and other living necessities. It is your house, and you have a right to kick them out if they aren't pulling their weight, especially if she's disrespectful towards you at every corner. It boggles my mind. My husband and I lived with my in-laws shortly after getting married, as we were in the middle of finding a place of our own. We didn't pay rent, so instead we cooked, cleaned, went grocery shopping, did maintenance. Family or not, adults have to contribute to the household in one way or another. The disrespect is the final straw. No one should expect free housing, food, maid service, then disrespect a person providing all of that. I'm glad you stood up for yourself, Opie. Not today home. Nobody should have put up with this kind of disrespect and hostility in their own home. You welcomed this person into your home and shown them kindness in their time of need. I can't even begin to understand how she has the nerve to treat you and talk to you this way. Any normal person would be thankful and do their best to be respectful and helpful around the house. Info. How does your son feel about the way she talks to you? Has he actually heard the things she says to you / how does he react? He rarely hears, and if he does, then he pretends he didn't. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents their divorce was hard on me even if they were still friendly afterward? I'm 24 female, I'm expecting my first child, and the event brought up some issues between my parents and me. When I was 8, my parents divorced. They still got along okay, but didn't want to be together anymore and worked on co-parenting and making things easier for me and my brother who was 10. It was better than some of my friends had it. but still hard. I mourned the family life I had enjoyed before. Having one home where both parents live and where we were just a family, not two families with different kids in one, and a new person who is considered your parents by everyone but you. And where it's weird because everyone thinks them getting along made it, so there was no struggling. But then people just think you fall madly in love with a nice person your parent marries, and readily accept a new person in a position of a parent. They think it makes jumping between homes easier. It does somewhat. If we forgot something at mom's or dad's, the other would bring us to pick it up with no drama. But I used to long for the days where I had a home. When my brother was 17 and coming up on graduation, my parents told him all 4 parents were going to do the graduation dinner for the graduating kid and parents. And he told them no, because they only had 2 parents and only mom and dad could go. They said he had 4, that the steps were just as good parents, and he told them no. The relationship changed after that. It was only with me becoming a mom they expected me to side with them over what had happened, and for me to say everything was perfect with a divorce. I told them it wasn't. That the divorce was hard on me despite how well they got along. That I was so happy they were happy and had better lives now. But divorce is always going to be something to adjust to for a kid regardless of circumstances, and they can't keep forcing us to say otherwise. They called me childish, and we haven't spoken since. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You expressed a perfectly valid emotion, and did so in a non-judgmental way. It was not childish. The reaction was though. Not the a-hole. It was understandable. You can't adapt immediately. It takes time. You were right to tell them that. You were respectful and reasonable. My parents broke up when I was 19 and no longer lived at home. I was an adult and it still sucked so bad. Still shattered my world. I can't even fathom how awful it must be for a child. It's something you might possibly never get over, and I don't see why should you lie if someone asks you how you felt about it. Not the a-hole. You and your brother are entitled to your feelings, and your parents are denying them. Are they expecting you to have your step-parents be called grandpa and grandma by your kid? They will be, because it will save so much drama to let it happen. You're the a-hole. What would you rather have happen between your parents? What is your ideal way of having them resolve this issue of divorce? Because from where I'm at, they seem to be really fair to you and your brother. Would you rather force 2 people to be unhappy while you grow up ignorant to their problems and their feelings? Or that they did what they did and end a marriage amicably? Your feelings are valid for sure, but that doesn't mean you aren't an a-hole. If you or your brother were mistreated in any way, I would understand how you feel about your step-parents. But you said they were the nicest. Yet you alienated them, and they're still there trying to have some sort of a relationship with you. Your brother's reaction, although valid because of how he feels, is still unfair to 4 people who really didn't do anything wrong to him or you. And this is all based off of the info you have provided. If they mistreated you, let us know. But if not, you guys are the a-hole. You can both be the a-hole and still have valid feelings. I don't know how other people on here can't see that. They never mistreated us, and I never said they should stay married. Acknowledging our feelings would be nice though. I have acknowledged theirs, and I agree that what they did was for the best. But that doesn't mean it wasn't hard. And not all relationships look the same. My step-parents are nice people, but they are not my parents. I do not love them or care about them the same as my parents. I always include them though, but never ever complain to them about having to. It would just be nice to not have them decide what my feelings are about all this. Am I the a-hole for not leaving an equal share of my inheritance to my stepchildren as my biological child in my will? Plus mini update. I, 55 male, married my wife, 52 female, 2 decades ago, bringing with her 2 children from her previous marriage, 27 female and 30 male. We also have a child of our own, 19 female. I am the primary breadwinner. My wife has always been a stay-at-home mom to raise all 3 children, and since they have left, continues to run the house, and I'm more than happy with this arrangement. Most of our joint assets therefore came from my income, as my wife came to the marriage with no assets. We are aware that wife's ex-husband has had a windfall of inheritance money, as conveyed by my stepchildren. This means that my stepchildren are said to inherit that windfall if not squandered. Their paternal grandmother and other family members are still in the picture with possible inheritance that may yet be passed down. Conversely, my biological daughter would not benefit from that inheritance money and would only benefit from whatever inheritance I can give her, as no other relatives in the picture that could support her or leave additional inheritance money. I have therefore chosen, with support from my wife, to will a larger portion of inheritance to my biological daughter. For example, if my wife died in an accident tomorrow, we would be leaving about $900,000 in assets to 19 female, and $25,000 each to 27 female and 30 male. 19 female would have no family support, thus relying entirely on the inheritance money, whereas 27 female and 30 male will still have other family members that can support them. If ex-husband died tomorrow, 27 female and 30 male are likely to receive $250,000 each in assets if not more, and will still have us to support them when needed, as we currently do. When we discussed this with 27 female and 30 male, emphasizing that they are set to receive inheritance from ex-husband and potentially others on his side of the family, they determined this was unfair, that my assets should be split evenly between the three of them. I retorted that if their father died, would 19 female get any of that inheritance? And they said no, because he is not her father. To be fair, they do look up to me and consider me as a father figure even though I am not their father. Therefore, I am wondering if I am the a-hole? Now for the top advice before the mini update. Not the a-hole, but I see no reason why you ever should have discussed it with the 3 kids in the first place. You and your wife are in agreement. Why ask the kids for their opinion? Especially since you're only in your 50s. I don't think it's to get their opinion. I think it's so everyone is on the same page in case anything happens. Deaths can tear a family apart, especially when there are surprises in the will. I think it's smart, even if the stepkids didn't like what they heard. Exactly. When people have these conversations, it's usually an effort to avoid anybody being blindsided at a time they already lost their loved one, or an attempt to explain the reasons behind the decision to avoid any animosity while everyone is grieving. I'm going through this with my grandmother right now, and her reasoning is that it's important to her that she knows if there's anything of hers that's really special to us. For example, I want her books, because she and I are both avid readers, and even though we like different genres, having them would bring me happiness and make me think of her. None of us is gonna come out and say that stuff to her, so if she didn't ask, she wouldn't know. You are likely going to get crap on here, but I'm going to say not the a-hole. The sub seems to think step-parents have to be perfect and there should be no differences ever. First off, I personally am fine with step-kids getting less of an inheritance. I say this as someone who grew up in a blended family. Throw in the face that their father has a totally separate inheritance for them and they'll have more anyway. I'd say your stepkids are just greedy. Also, there are 2 adults contributing to the inheritance, mom and dad, and not just mom. So at minimum, a fair split is that the youngest gets 2 times what the older children get. But I think it's fair to skew it to try to give all 3 kids roughly the same in the end when factoring in their dad's contribution. Not the a-hole. Very telling that they said no sharing their inheritance because their father is not her father. How is that different from them and you? They are being greedy OP. You can tell because they think it's unfair when you do the exact same thing to them that they want to do to her. Now for the mini update. I've been looking at some really insightful comments about how to calculate what to give my stepchildren, with a number of comments suggesting I do need to give more. 1 or 2 people have suggested a formula of first splitting assets in half, considering 50-50 between wife and myself, and then dividing the 50 between the 3 children, essentially giving my stepchildren about 1/6 each. However, as noted above, there is more to consider here than a simple division, such as support from others, but also some of this is physical assets like a house that cannot be simply considered as cash value. But it is clear that we, wife and I, in this joint decision should be willing a higher amount to my stepchildren. Next story. Am I the a-hole for throwing away the expensive whiskey my brother got me for my 40th? I'm 40 male, just turned 40 last week. I'm divorced and have 2 teenage kids with my ex-wife, 17 male and 14 female. My whole family came to my girlfriend's apartment last Saturday for my birthday party. My parents, some aunts and uncles, some cousins, my 3 brothers with their families, my 2 kids, and my girlfriend's 15-year-old son who lives with us. I am a recovered alcoholic, and I've been sober for 6 years now. Alcohol absolutely ruined my life. It destroyed my marriage and nuked my relationship with my kids for years. So I don't allow alcohol in my home now. For anyone. It just isn't served nor tolerated here. My entire family knows this very well as they know my entire history with it. For my 40th, my brother bought me a very expensive bottle of whiskey. It had writing on it, a very heavy bottle and very old whiskey. So it probably cost him a couple $100. When he gave me the bottle, I was shocked and said, "I don't drink, but thanks for the gift." He then opened the bottle and started pouring shots in plastic cups for everyone. My daughter had a panic attack at the smell of the alcohol, which I am painfully aware is my fault, and I will never forgive myself for it. So I told my brother to take the alcohol out on the balcony and just leave it there. He wouldn't do it and took a shot of the whiskey. I told him to seriously stop it, and he proceeded to pour the whiskey. He then said I'm acting like a sober saint now when I ruined everyone's birthdays for years with my drinking. I told him to come to the hallway with me and talk it out. He refused and put a glass of whiskey in my hand. I took the trash can, threw the whiskey bottle in it and the plastic cups and took the trash out. My brother then stormed off and my mom followed him. She later called me, demanding an apology for disrespecting my brother like that. My dad said I was being overly sensitive, and some of my other family members also agree. Am I the a-hole here? Not the a-hole. What your brother did is really, really awful and cruel. Possibly the worst gift I've ever heard of someone giving another, especially as he is aware of your struggles and recovery. Congratulations on recovery and standing up for yourself and your family. And I can't believe the rest of the family supporting the brother and calling Opie disrespectful. It's a bizarre world. I know. It's basically a miracle Opie is safely in recovery with that kind of support system. Kudos to Opie. I knew a couple where the husband was an alcoholic but tried very hard to stay sober. Every time he had a few successful weeks, the wife would buy wine to celebrate and ask him to have one glass with her. Just one glass. You can do that. One really don't need enemies with family like that. Not the a-hole. Brother was being horrendously terrible/taunting. Read a room, dude. Especially the pain this caused the kids. Not a situation to double down on your bottle flex. Mom and anyone upset at Opie can pound sand and get their juice on their own time. Opie should have drain-poured it to prevent them from dumpster diving afterwards. I say this as someone who drinks. The level of disrespect shown Opie here is off the charts. Now contact a lot of them. He should have poured the whiskey on his brother's dumb head. Like, what the heck did I just read? I hope Opie goes no contact with him and everyone enabling his brother because holy smokes. Next story. Am I the a-hole for breaking my grandma's heart? My 16 female dad is a horrible person. I'm sorry, but he just is. He isn't all that terrible to me or my brother, 17 male, but he's horrible to our mom. Growing up, it was very obvious that our dad saw our mom as lesser than. He'd yell at her over everything and made her responsible for everything. Cleaning, taking care of us, etc. My mom never said anything and tried her hardest to make it seem like everything was okay. I'm ashamed to admit it, but I'm too scared to stand up to my dad. I always freeze. My brother, on the other hand, does not care. He yells back and isn't afraid of anything. I think my brother realized I'm too scared to protect our mom and recently told us that he's going to college nearby and will be commuting as the college doesn't require first years to live on campus. My parents were confused and my dad was a little upset. He kept telling him that he's going to miss out and he'll regret it, but my brother didn't budge. Mom even told him that he should go and that she'll be fine, but my brother just said that they're lucky he's even going to college. Well, yesterday we got a surprise visit from our grandma, Dad's mom. She never visits, and when she does, she also just treats my mom the same as Dad, so we weren't very excited. But we were civil, because, well, if we aren't, then she'll find a way to blame our mom. It was okay at first, but then she asked my mom, "Is this what you wanted? Are you proud of yourself?" My mom started to shake, but my brother immediately got in between them. Grandma just rolled her eyes and asked my brother if he was really going to throw away his life just because he thinks his mom's too fragile to survive without him. My brother didn't say anything. I then spoke up and said, "It's not because of Mom, it's because of you and Dad. You guys are horrible, and you really need to get the heck out." My grandma immediately started yelling at me. She said that she expected better, and said that I'm rude, disrespectful, and bratty. She then told my mom that she raised horrible kids, before leaving angrily. I know I was just standing up for my mom, and my brother keeps telling I'm fine. but I feel guilty. My grandma apparently adores me according to my dad, and I really broke her heart. It is not like I made things better, maybe even worse. And now my dad is expecting me to apologize, but I don't know if I want to. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Your dad is just manipulating you by saying you broke her heart. Doesn't sound like she has one to break anyway. For real. My grandma apparently adores me according to my dad. Really? Because he just called you rude, disrespectful, and bratty, and said you were a horrible kid. I know it's awful to finally see her for who she truly is, but she only liked you because you didn't stand up to her or your dad, and let them walk all over you. The moment you spoke up with them, they both turned on you. That's what abusers do. Not the a-hole. Yeah, seems like the father inherited the lack of heart as well. The father and grandmother are the only a-holes in this situation. But I hope Opie and her brother tried to formulate a plan to help their mother to leave, because she's probably dealing with a lot more abuse than they realize. Especially if she's literally shaking with fear in response to something like her old mother-in-law getting pissy with her. Not the a-hole. While perhaps not the most tactful thing to say, it sounds like this has been building for a long time, and you are human. Your feelings and emotions are justified. I highly suspect that your father is using your grandmother's broken heart as a form of emotional manipulation. I would wager this is something he's done countless times to you, your brother, and your mother. Have you spoken to a trusted adult or a therapist about some of the things happening at home? Neither you nor your brother should have to feel like it's your job to protect your mother. It has been building, and I guess I also took out my feelings regarding my dad out on her as well. And I don't know. My brother always told me not to tell anyone and that he'll handle it. So I guess I haven't. I think my mom's siblings once tried asking me about the situation at home when I was younger. But again, my brother said not to say anything, so I didn't. Thinking back, I think they know something's up. Not the a-hole. Your father and grandmother owe you, your mother, and your brother an apology. And I hope someday your mother will leave this mess. I hope my mom does too. It's hard though. He doesn't give her any access to money and she hasn't had a job in years since my dad made her quit, so I can't blame her. My brother and I have been saving up though, and my brother's planning on taking extra classes so he can get through college as fast as he can and land a good job. I have faith it'll work. I doubt we'll ever get apologies though. I figured your father was the typical controlling a-hole. I hope your mother doesn't feel obligated to stay with your father for her children's sake, because that is fairly common. Last story. Am I the a-hole for making my parents choose between me and my ex/former friend? I was best friends with Jen from preschool through 9th grade. Her home life was pretty rough, and she practically lived at my house, and my parents called her the daughter they never had. When we were in 9th grade, I asked her out. It took some convincing, but she eventually said yes. She broke up with me over text the day after our date. She barely went to school, didn't text, and wasn't at my house at all the next few weeks. She eventually showed up at my house in the middle of the night. I took her in, no questions asked. Then she left in the middle of the night a few weeks later. I admit I didn't love having her around. It didn't make it easy on her. But apparently her leaving was hard on everybody. My parents even had to go to therapy. Last year, I moved out for college, but I was still planning on coming to visit. A few months after I moved out, Jen showed up at my parents' house pregnant and with a baby. They took her in again, then called me and my brothers asking how we feel about her staying with them. My brothers were okay with it, but I can't forgive her for what she did a few years ago. My parents let her stay anyways, but said they had conditions on her staying with them, like her going to therapy and either enrolling in college or getting a job. I told them I still wasn't okay with it. We argued a bit and I told them I wouldn't visit if she was living there. She's still there, and I held true to my word and I haven't visited since. They're trying to get me to come for Christmas, but I won't be there if Jen is living there. So now they're calling me petty and saying I need to forgive her, but I think I have a right to be upset. So at 15 you were told no, and then after bullying her, which you referred to as it took some convincing, she eventually said yes. You had one single date, which you harassed her into agreeing to. Then you referred to her not wanting a second date, which she also didn't want the first date either by the way, as breaking up with you. She then spent weeks avoiding you, which you still didn't pick up on. You don't say how old you are now, but it's clear you still resent her for not wanting to date you. You're the a-hole. You forgot the part where Opie didn't love having her around and didn't make it easy on her, meaning that Opie took a home life that could potentially have been stable and safe for a girl whose original home life seems anything but, and turned it into a living hell for her. All because she turned down a second date after having been bullied into a first one. Opie, I disagree with your family. You don't need to forgive anything, because you have nothing to forgive. She did nothing wrong. What you need to do is beg and grovel and pray for forgiveness from both her and your family for everything you have done to make this girl's life a living hell. If you can't do that, keep staying away. It's better for everyone, especially that poor girl. Not to mention how low she must have been feeling to willingly return to the home of a boy who made it a living hell for her. Opie, she was desperate enough for help from the only people, read your parents, who showed her any amount of compassion and kindness that she decided dealing with your pathetic butt was worth it.